We all want to feel peace in our lives. Peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Well, hello. Welcome back to Paring Down, everybody. Can you believe we're halfway through September? Wait, we're like way more than halfway through September. There's only a week or so left, right? That's correct? Yep. We got one more week of September. A week from today is the last day of September. Then we're in October. Have you guys started like the whole Halloween costume situation yet? You know, these are the kinds of things that just creep up on me. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm so happy to have you here. Our conversation today is going to be a bit more on a personal tone, but not like just a personal life update. You know, this is going to be hopefully very helpful in your decluttering journey, but I'm going to be sharing some things about my own life, even more than I usually do, because I think a lot of people can relate. And it's something that we don't necessarily hear a lot about with a level of vulnerability that can be helpful. So I'm hoping to offer that to you guys, to be a little bit vulnerable about something that I have experienced in my life. And that is my struggle with PMDD. For those of you who do not know what PMDD is, it stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. That's really long. So I'm just going to be saying PMDD, and it's different than PMS. And we'll talk about more about what that is, just because I know that so many women do experience it. But this isn't just an episode for people who have PMDD. This is an episode for anyone who has any sort of disorder, or maybe is just going through like a super emotionally difficult season in life where the energy has been drained from their bodies, and it makes it harder to declutter. Specifically, if it is kind of like a cyclical experience, that can often happen with seasonal depression or any other kind of mood disorder, or even if you struggle at work because you have a toxic work environment. And so how you feel during the week is different than how you feel during the weekend, right? There's lots of different ways that this might apply to your life that is not, specifically PMDD. But that's the experience that I have when it comes to something happening in my body and in my emotions and my hormones that affects my ability to care for the house and to declutter. I just think this topic matters a lot because so many people feel this level of guilt that they can't just have it together all the time. There's a lot of shame. I know I feel that too. It's something that I know my mom struggled with. She never got diagnosed. And, as many of you know, my mom passed away 13 years ago. She passed away. It was Labor Day, was her 13th anniversary of her passing from bladder cancer. But, growing up, I look back and I can see, because PMDD is genetic, and I can really see that that's something she struggled with. But at the same time, she grew up in the 70s where she felt strongly about making sure women were taken seriously, that they could be taken seriously in positions of leadership and in the workplace. And so often there's this rhetoric that because of the hormonal fluctuations women experience every single month, that women cannot be level-headed leaders, which I think most of us know is a load of cow manure. And that PMDD generally affects, or PMS generally affects us more so in our personal relationships and kind of what we go through when we're alone or internally. And it actually doesn't show up in our ability to lead with logic. We just are exhausted at the end of the day. So anyways, that has nothing to do with this. But because of that, I know my mom didn't necessarily seek out to understand or get a diagnosis or help because she did not want it to be seen as a limiting factor of her being taken seriously. And I hope that by talking about this today, I'm changing the narrative, helping to change the narrative of anyone who is stuck in that shame, or anybody who is stuck in that mentality of thinking that this keeps women from being completely capable of being incredible leaders and giving back to their home, family, and societies in a very rational way, no matter what. And I think we've seen enough of men who are leaders who lead with emotion these days to recognize it's not a gender issue. You know what I mean? But so I hope that that kind of feeds into this conversation today as well. But I want to remove the shame, remove the guilt, or even the confusion about why our routines feel harder during certain times of the month or during certain emotional experiences when we're going through something tough. You know, it's been a hard couple weeks for, I would say, just about everybody in these United States of America and the whole world watching what's going on here. And it's draining, right? It's very draining. And we can't expect ourselves to not feel a physical reaction to that affects every aspect of our life. So I'm going to focus on PMDD right now because that's what I'm sharing about, and that's what has affected my personal decluttering and home management experience. So I wanted to share what it is, how it's diagnosed, how it can be treated, and how PMDD affects my ability to manage my home, and what I've learned about keeping my space under control even during the hardest weeks of my cycle. So let me break this down for you guys. PMDD, it's not just a really bad PMS. Some people describe it that way. I've even seen different medical advisors. Some say it's completely different than PMS. Some say that it's a very extreme version of PMS. I don't think it really matters what its relation to PMS is. All we know is that it's a medical condition caused by how some people's brains and bodies react to normal hormonal changes each month. So especially in women, there are these hormonal fluctuations, as we know. And so during the luteal phase, hormones like progesterone and estrogen fluctuate. We're getting more of them, we're getting less of them, whatever. And in people with PMDD, these changes affect brain chemicals like serotonin, right? That's what makes us happy. And so those regulate our mood and anxiety. And like I said, genetics and family history can make someone more likely to experience PMDD, as well as outside factors like stress, poor sleep, or even diet. Those things can make symptoms worse, but they are not the sole contributing factor. This is a genetic disorder, and it can affect you no matter how well you take care of your body or take care of your environment. So I think we need to release the shame that we're not doing enough for our mental health to be like perfectly mentally healthy and unaffected by our hormonal fluctuations. Like we can do things to help ourselves, of course, but some of this is just baked into how God created us. It affects about 5 to 8% of women, which is fairly high. Okay. Like that's about 1 in 15 women. Symptoms include intense mood swings. So this isn't just somebody who's angry all the time. They're perfectly fine during other phases of their cycle. But during the luteal phase, everything can set them off way worse, right? Depression, anxiety, irritability, fatigue, brain fog, and physical pain. I'll talk about some of those symptoms too. All of those are symptoms of PMDD. And like I said, it usually arises about 1 to 2 weeks before menstruation. Mine is a solid 2 weeks before. So I'm living about half my life in this difficult PMDD stage, or whatever you want to call it. The key thing that doctors look for is a pattern, that the symptoms show up in the week or two before your period, and then usually goes away once your period starts. And that's important because of misdiagnosis with like saying it's just anxiety or depression or whatever. If we're not looking at the cyclical nature of it, then that takes away a key element of what makes PMDD PMDD. So to get a PMDD diagnosis, you usually need to have at least 5 symptoms. And one of them has to be mood related, like feeling anxious, irritable, or really sad. The others can be physical symptoms like bloating, breast tenderness, or headaches. Those all count. And those are all things that I definitely experience. And I have tracked mine so long that I know exactly what's happening. Like my breasts will hurt so bad, TMI, sorry. But I know exactly what that means. I know how many days that means until my period comes, because of the physical pain gets worse in different days of my PMDD experience. And so it's interesting once you start tracking these things to see how cyclical they are and how predictable they are. And then the biggest piece and final piece of these symptoms is that they interfere with your daily life. Okay. So they interfere with your ability to concentrate, maybe with your relationships, or just managing your day, getting things done around the house. Your energy is drained and your feelings are heightened to the point where you're not yourself. And this is different than being able to logically do a job well, to show up at work. I've always been, frankly, a really incredible employee before I started working for myself, right? PMDD never affected my logic and my ability to do my job. It did affect my energy and my ability to feel, like when kids get home from school and they lose their little baby minds and their teachers are like, oh, they were great at school. And you're like, why did they come home? And they're just immediately little gremlins. And so much research has shown that that is actually when they're in a safe environment, they can let go and let out all of the things they've been holding in all day to be good, right? So they can show up really well at school, and coming home is kind of this outburst, and it's not a reflection of their ability to perform well at school or to be good kids or whatever you want to call it. It's just like an emotional release. And so with PMDD, it's similar. It's when you are able to be back in your safe environment at home with your loved ones, whatever, that's usually when it shows up. Everything you've been holding in all day to show up well for people in a professional capacity or whatever it might be tends to come out at home base when you're in a safe environment. But of course, that can affect relationships, especially if your partner isn't aware of the cycle. And especially if you're not taking responsibility, that even when you're going through something like PMDD, that doesn't mean you can just lash out and be horrible to people around you, obviously, right? So we have to take responsibility. But I do want to point out that usually happens in a safe place at home. This has nothing to do with being able to show up well in the world. It's often showing up differently inside of our houses. So noticing these patterns and how it'll affect your life means PMDD is often self-diagnosed, but of course you want to see your doctor to make sure there's not something else going on. I'm not telling you here that if anything I say, oh, you can be like, yeah, but I have PMDD. I got blood work done to make sure that my thyroid was in a normal range and that I didn't have symptoms of depression outside my cycle. I wanted it to be tracked by doctors, right? And so I encourage anyone to know that I am not a medical professional. I am not diagnosing you or encouraging self-diagnosis. However, that is how PMDD is diagnosed, is through tracking cycles, and then take a look at your blood work and make sure there's nothing else going on. I personally tracked it in my planner, then that I could see very clearly a pattern after a while, because I would have 2 very, very, very good weeks where I felt normal, right? Doesn't mean that nothing else went wrong in life, but I just felt like I had reasonable reactions to things that would go wrong. And then in those 2 weeks, I would just feel like I was losing my mind, right? My patience was shot with my husband. My overstimulation was just off the charts when my kids would blast the music and the vent would be on in the kitchen and there's papers on the counter, and I just couldn't handle it. Versus on my good weeks, I would just turn down the music and ask my husband if we could turn off the vent and, put the papers away. And it would just, whatever, it is what it is. Versus my PMDD weeks, I start losing my mind and shaking and being like, I just have to go upstairs. It's just too much, right? It's just not a reasonable reaction. So anywho, it was interesting to track that. You can also, of course, track it on apps like Clue or Flow. Treatment for PMDD is, of course, lifestyle approaches. So sleep, nutrition, exercise. I've tried everything. Honestly, it's been tough. Sleep obviously is huge. That one does help me. So if I have a good night's sleep, that's humongous. It's also hard for me to sleep because of how extreme the hormonal fluctuations affect me. It often gives me insomnia. So that's tough. But when I do get a good night's sleep, it's great. Nutrition has been interesting. I haven't found, honestly, a huge difference. I've tried everything from going completely vegan to see if I needed to take out any Animal products, I did that for about 3 months. I did not see a big change personally. I've tried intermittent fasting to see if that helps regulate my body. I've tried everything with food. It hasn't worked for me, but I do know it has worked for other people. So it's always worth a try. Exercise, that does work for me. I think that works for anyone, PMDD or not. It's like so good. I was having a pretty bad day yesterday and I just like got on the elliptical downstairs and sweated it out for about 30 minutes and it felt fantastic. Whatever kind of exercise you like to do. Supplements can also help. Magnesium, vitamin B6, calcium. Again, with mixed results, I think it's worth trying. Why not? Therapy always helps. I think everybody worth trying multiple therapists. I've gone to therapy, well, I guess technically twice. Once when I was in college after I left the cult. If you guys don't know about that, I have an episode about that. I will link it in the show notes about how growing up in a cult helped me to live more intentionally. And then that therapist was like this older guy and I just didn't feel comfortable and I went twice and never again. And then last year I started seeing someone virtually to try and help with this PMDD situation and did not find it particularly helpful, but I also just don't think that she was awesome. And I was just too tired to find somebody new. And so I didn't. But I do recommend trying therapy and hopefully finding someone that works well for you. Doctors, of course, they might prescribe medication. I know a couple of my girlfriends, I'm not currently on medication, a couple of my girlfriends who do have PMDD, who have been diagnosed with PMDD, are on a very, very, very low dose of an SSRI. And they say that has been tremendously helpful. My doctor did tell me that it's an option to use an SSRI, but not constantly, like literally just during the 2 weeks of my PMDD. It's just not something that I've taken the plunge into yet, but that is an option. Some people feel better when they're on birth control or do hormone therapy. So medication is an option. And in very, very serious, severe cases, there's other medical interventions, including surgery, that, some people might have to go through. So anyways, just wanted to share those treatment options because I just feel like PMDD, a lot of people don't know enough about it. But of course, consult your own provider. This is just me giving you some information that I've learned. But now that we've talked about what PMDD is, I hope that what I share here, there's some nuggets, of course, might not work for you. We're all different. So take what works for you, leave what doesn't. But hopefully you'll get some help here, some ideas in case you also struggle with different seasons or cycles where your energy is a lot lower in a way that's out of your control. Managing a home can be hard for anyone, even on their best day. That's why we declutter, is because even on my best day, if my house is like chock-a-block with kid toys and papers everywhere and dishes everywhere and stuff on the counters and on the tabletops and piles, it's like, that's horrible. Even on a good day, right? But when you're in a dark place, right? If you're struggling with a mental health problem or with PMDD or, going through something difficult, it can feel almost impossible. And as we know, if we're talking about decluttering, not just tidying, right? I'm going to be kind of talking about both of those things today. But if you're really wanting to get stuff out of your house, when you're irritable or anxious or sad, that makes decluttering a million times harder because it can be an emotional process as you try and figure out how to release certain sentimental items, as you try and make decisions about what you need, like your anxiety going through the roof. That's not going to help you let go of things, right? If you're trying to work with your partner to declutter things that belong to both of you, your patience with them and your curiosity and all of that, that's not going to go well. And then there's the brain fog, right? That's not great for decision making and planning and remembering what needs to be done. It's not laziness. Your brain is literally struggling to process things that would otherwise feel manageable and simple. So PMDD doesn't just affect your mood, it affects your capacity. And that's why being compassionate with yourself, planning strategically, and using practical systems is key for keeping a home functional during challenging weeks. Just last week was an amazing episode with Chelsea Joe of Systemize Your Life, and we talked all about these different systems we can keep in our lives to make our lives easier. And that would be an excellent episode to listen to if you haven't yet. And if you're struggling with anything like what we're talking about today, to go back and get some ideas for how you can implement systems that just take the edge off of daily life and daily decision making. Let's dive into 5 strategies for managing your home with PMDD. Hey guys, it's time for your ad break. Each week I like to say a huge thank you for your graciousness that these are part of the podcast. Here we go. Did you know that 3 out of 4 US homes have toxic chemicals in their tap water? Yikes. You guys know I don't believe in fear-mongering. I'm not here for that. However, I do think that it's important to take a holistic look at our entire lives and make sure that we are operating in a way that's going to keep us healthy. And something that is obviously important to keep humans alive is our water. And so why wouldn't we want to make sure that we and our family are consuming the cleanest water possible that doesn't have contaminations, including chlorine, lead, chemicals, microplastics? There's so many of these things that are very real, even though we can't see them. And that's why I choose to use AquaTrue with my family. It's a countertop water purifier that has been tested and certified to remove 84 contaminants, including the ones that I just named. It has a patented 4-stage reverse osmosis system that goes way beyond ordinary filters for pure, healthy water that you can trust. There's no plumbing, no installation. It's super easy, and I can taste the difference, and I feel just so much better about making sure that me and my kids are drinking something that's going to keep us healthy, as water should. AquaTrue has been featured in Business Insider, Popular Science. It was named the best countertop water filter by Good Housekeeping. Okay, so join 98% of customers, including me, who say that their drinking water is cleaner, safer, and healthier since switching to AquaTrue. So go to aquatrue.com right now for 20% off of your purifier using promo code PAIRING. Remember, there's no I in pair, so the code is PARING. AquaTrue even comes with a 30-day best tasting water guarantee. That's aquatrue.com, AQUATRU.com. There's no E at the end of true. AquaTrue, no E.com with promo code PAIRING, PARING. Let's dive into 5 strategies for managing your home with PMDD. The first one, plan around your cycle. Okay, so use a calendar or a tracking app to mark your high energy and your low energy days, like we already talked about. And then plan ahead. I think that part was actually hard for me. Like, I eventually was like, oh, okay, I know what's coming when, but I didn't do a good job looking at my calendar and at the dates coming up, like in the next weeks and months, and saying, when would be a good idea to do this? When should I record my podcast? When should I have a podcast interview with somebody? When should we tackle the garage or these bigger things, right? There's certain things we cannot control on our calendar, like when the open house is for our kids or when they have a soccer tournament or whatever it might be. But we can control certain things. So make sure you're looking ahead on your calendar and plan accordingly. You can even plan things like vacuuming and laundry or deep cleaning or whatever on high energy weeks. Like today or this week is a good week for me. So I'm deep cleaning our couch. I got a little green machine. I don't know if you guys have heard of those. They're awesome. I'll link that in the show notes too. Why not? Let me help you out. It's an awesome like cleaning tool where it sprays the couch as you clean it, and it's so satisfying. And then it like sucks up the spray at the same time, and sucks in all the dirt and whatever else is on your couch as you scrub it. And then this other side of the tank fills up with all the dirty water that it's sucking back in. Oh, it's so satisfying and disgusting. But like, you know how some things that are gross are really satisfying? That's how I find the little green machine, because you just see the brown water getting more and more on the dirty side. And you're like, this is all coming out of my couch. I hate it and I love it. So anyway, but you know, you can do things like that when you're feeling better. Right. I wouldn't be deep cleaning my couch on a bad week. Okay. But it still needed to get done. So let's do that on our better weeks. Reserve the week before your period or the 2 weeks when you're in a bad mood or whenever this cyclical situation is happening for you, or whenever you know you're going to be exposed to people who drain your energy, whatever, right? Like apply this to your own situation. Reserve that for things that are just going to be on your non-negotiable list, which we're going to talk about next. But don't try and overdo it during those hard weeks. Like, it's okay. You don't have to hit the garage hard with a decluttering project that week. Just go take a bath, you know, go watch The Summer I Turned Pretty, like be nice to yourself, have a Snickers, you know. I love the term energy budgeting. I don't know where I heard that, but treat it like energy budgeting. You're budgeting your energy throughout the month. When we're budgeting our money, we have to look ahead and say, what do I need to spend money on? Groceries, bills, like house payments, whatever, right? And then you budget your money accordingly. So look at your calendar for the next month and say, what do I need to get done? What do I want to accomplish? And then budget your energy. And, you know, you're going to put way more energy into those good weeks, all right? And then not so much into the bad weeks. So Plan those bigger tasks for when you're feeling capable, and don't feel like you have to tackle everything when you're feeling drained. Now, number 2 is set these non-negotiables. So I like to pick 2 or 3 must-do tasks that keep my home afloat no matter what kind of mood I'm in. And they're very doable, even in bad moods. So for me, that's laundry. I do a little bit of laundry every day. It's basically a load every other day. Anyone who has been around this podcast knows my laundry routine. Lucky you know my laundry routine. But anyways, yeah, it's, so I just do a little bit of laundry every day. So never gets overwhelming. So good week, bad week, laundry is getting done. Okay. Clearing countertops. I just wipe down the countertops because I don't want things to build up, because then in a bad week, I'm going to lose my mind. Now, is my house a little bit messier during bad weeks? Yes. Do I let the clutter creep its way onto the kitchen table? Probably a little more than I normally do, 100%. But if I don't keep up with that on a daily basis, I will lose my mind. I will not be well. And so even on my bad weeks, that's a non-negotiable for me, is to generally pick up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm getting most things off the countertops. Another one that a lot of people do is making the bed every day. That is not something I do every day. My husband tends to. So we tend to have a made bed, but that's usually because he is the best. He also does the dishes, but that might be a good non-negotiable if you don't have someone that helps you around the house. And then my other non-negotiable is getting toys or anything off the floor put back in the playroom. I do not get that playroom looking great when I'm in a bad week. 100% no. I just keep all the toys in there, which aren't that many. And yes, of course, my kids have to clean up, whatever. But if I want the playroom to look how I like the playroom to look, I have to do it myself. And I don't do that during bad weeks. But my non-negotiables are laundry is done. The floors don't have stuff on them. I just throw it back in the playroom, and the counters and tables are cleared off, right? That's my basic, and I can keep up with that even during my bad weeks. So pick those non-negotiables for you that you can feel good about. And then you let the shame go if you don't do anything else. Fine. Cool. You didn't declutter this weekend? You didn't declutter your basement? Great. That's because you're surviving your hormonal fluctuations, or you're going through something, like because you're human. You didn't organize your photos. You didn't, I don't know, whatever it is, still feel great about being you because you're a human. Okay. And you're gonna go through stuff that makes it harder to get this stuff done. But setting those non-negotiables will make your life easier all around. Number 3, use distraction as much as possible when it comes to caring for your home during hard times. So for me, that looks like blasting really fun music. I personally love listening to the original NSYNC album, Sorry Not Sorry. I love listening to Taylor Swift, also Sorry Not Sorry. And I like the Frozen soundtrack because I'm, 5. But put on music that makes you happy, that will pump you up, that makes you feel so good. And then you can putter around the house and do the things that need to get done. And that will give you energy because it gets you out of your brain. It gets you out of those spirals that PMDD causes. Like my brain just spirals, right? Anxiety, depression, whatever you're going through, your brain tends to spiral. But when you're blasting in sync, it's hard for your brain to spiral at the same time because you're listening to songs like, here we go, one more time, everybody's feeling fine, here we go now, here we go, right? Like just listening to me sing that poorly, I hope brought you a little bit of joy. Now imagine the produced version by Justin Timberlake, JC Chazé, etc. Right? Like, come on. You cannot be sad when you're listening to the first NSYNC album, which makes me so excited. I can't wait for Christmas. I love Home for Christmas, the album by NSYNC. Okay. Anyways, my inner millennial is just screaming right now. Also, podcasts. Podcasts get your brain out of funks because your brain cannot concentrate on everything at once. So if you're listening to somebody else talk, then your brain cannot talk to you. Okay. So this is not suppressing our issues. It's just recognizing that sometimes it's better to not let ourselves spiral. Okay. Those are two different things. Some podcasts that I love when I'm in a bad place and I need something happy, I listen to Happier by Gretchen Rubin, who was on this podcast. Still can't believe it. I will never be over it that she was a guest on Paring Down. I will put her episode in the show notes as well in case you missed it. But I listened to her podcast because it's usually very, very positive. Gives you lots of good ideas and it's fun. Okay. And then I love ones that are not, they're kind of like fiction. They're not fiction. They're not talking head podcasts. They're storytelling podcasts. So The Moth and Modern Love are both really great. Modern Love are like different love stories, but it's not just romantic love. It can be love between family members or friends or whatever. But they're stories. They're written stories that were originally published in a column in the New York Times. And then usually a celebrity reads the story. It's so fun. It gets your head out of your spiral, and it's really good. And then The Moth is storytelling hours, usually like live, almost like a TED Talk, but they're telling a story that has some bigger theme about life. And I just really enjoy them and get a lot out of them. And they're usually hilarious. Okay. So don't underestimate the power of distraction when you're going through something difficult. And you can use that distraction to help you do tasks at home. Put those on and then go do what needs to get done, because you unfortunately are a grown up with responsibilities, and the house, doesn't clean itself, folks, even when you're going through PMDD. I find that to be very helpful. Okay. The fourth little piece of advice that I have is prepare a PMDD toolkit or a mental health toolkit or whatever else you need. Okay. So this is like a low energy kit that makes chores and home management easier. We're talking frozen meals. So your kit in my head is not like a first aid kit where it's all exists in a little holder together. Okay. We're talking, the kit exists within the house. Okay. It's kind of like a broad kit. Frozen meals and easily assembling foods make your life easier. Do that. I know some people that when they're in their PMDD weeks, they use paper plates. And while, of course, the side of me that loves our planet doesn't want you to necessarily use disposable goods, I also really care about your brain. And if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. You know what I mean? So you don't have to do dishes. Okay. That's an option. But anyways, keep some frozen meals or that kind of thing. My husband now, because again, as you know, he is a saint and he does the majority of our cooking. I cook sometimes, but he tends to make large batches for my PMDD weeks so that I don't have to think about dinner ever. And I don't have to wonder what he's making for dinner. And I don't have to get impatient when he gets home from work and, we are eating late because, he's taking too long to cook which is, it's a whole thing. Anyway, so we'll have like big batches of fried rice because that's my favorite, and big batches of, he made butter chicken just recently. That was amazing. He makes this beef and broccoli, like, Chinese dish. It's so good. He also does a beef and vegetable stew. So he will just do like big batches of things. And they bring a lot of joy and happiness to my life. I don't have to think about it, right? I don't have to think about what I'm feeding the kids after school. I'm like, here, have a slice of daddy's sourdough that he already sliced. I mean, this is just coming across like marry someone who's going to take care of you, which is true. I mean, I hope your partner is supportive if you have something like PMDD, but you can also do this for yourself during good weeks. You can cook the stuff, you can prep so that during the bad weeks, you're not struggling as hard. Another piece of the PMDD toolkit, have your hush bin. I don't know if I've talked about hush bins on the podcast. I coined it, but it's not like a new idea. I just wanted a fun little phrase for something I could call it, which is hide unwanted stuff hastily. HUSH, hush bin. We do this when we have guests, right? If you don't have a lot of time to prep, you just toss everything into a laundry basket and deal with it later. That's your hush bin. But you can also do this during PMDD, okay? And sometimes I do this for sure during PMDD weeks when I want to clear those counters, which is a non-negotiable, but I don't have the energy to put every little tiny Pokemon card back where it goes. You know where it goes? It goes in the hush bin. And then the hush bin goes in the closet. And then happy Shannon in a week from now can put that where it needs to go. Okay. So a hush bin there's no shame in that game. Part of your PMDD toolkit can be keeping cleaning supplies where you use them. And again, this toolkit will help you even when you're not struggling with whatever you're struggling with, but they just make your life even easier during these hard times. So I have learned to keep multi-purpose cleaner underneath every kitchen, every sink. Kitchen sink, yes. Bathroom sink, upstairs in the primary bedroom, yes. Kids' bathroom, yes. All of them, because that way, with the paper towels too, right next to them. And it's not a waste because I use every single one of them and I am more likely to clean that space. So, make sure you're keeping things where you use them. Prep your house-wide kit. Maybe I shouldn't have said kit because kit kind of sounds like you're putting it all together, but we'll just go with it. Prep this when you're feeling good so that you're ready for your tougher days. You're just thinking ahead, really. That's all I'm talking about. Okay, number 5 is a big one. I've already touched on it. Ask for help and communicate this. with especially your housemates, your roommates, your children, your spouse, whoever. My kids know I have PMDD. Like I said, is it an excuse for mommy to raise her voice or to be mean? Absolutely not. Nope. My kids know, because if I get snappy with them, I say, whose fault is it when mommy raises her voice or snaps at you? They say, mommy's, because I've taught them that is not your fault. That is something mommy needs to work on. Doesn't mean that what their behavior was cool. Okay. But they know that that is not their fault. And they know that sometimes mommy has harder weeks than others. They know that I have a bad week. And this is not putting this on their shoulders. This is not me not taking responsibility for being a good mom. 0%. However, during PMDD, I struggle with being touched. Like I get touched out. And when you have little kids, they're all over you all the time. And so now I have to say to them, guys, tonight is not one of the nights that I can have all three of you wiggling on top of me. I can't, like my body really makes my heart beat really fast and it makes my skin hurt. And I'm so sorry, but I cannot do that. But I can't wait to cuddle with you again next week when I'm not in a bad week. I mean, I still cuddle with them a little bit, but kids, they just like put their elbows into you and they like dig their heads into you. And you're like, are you a pachycephalosaurus? Like, what are you doing digging your head into me like that? Pachycephalosaurus. You can tell that I have a 4-year-old obsessed with dinosaurs. I know the kind of dinosaurs that use their heads to butt into you. But anywho, so, I've communicated that to my family and they get it and they understand. And if I have to apologize, I apologize and I take full responsibility. And they know that maybe it was a harder week for me, that my body is making it harder for me to have patience. And they get that. And then, of course, with my husband, he understands that too, to an extreme level. I'm so grateful for him. He's helped me track it. He knows, and we work together to mitigate my symptoms the best that we can. And he shows me so much grace when I do get overstimulated and I'm like, why is that vent on in the kitchen? And he's like, I'm sorry. Or like, he doesn't register when things are loud, right? Like, so the kids can be watching TV. He can be blasting Alexa while he cooks dinner. The vent is on and there's a kid ringing the doorbell to want to come in and play, like a neighbor kid. And he just doesn't register it. And so even during PMDD weeks, he knows to try and be more aware of that, but he's just not aware of it. And so that's usually what makes me lose my mind. I'm like, can someone turn off the music and answer the door? So anyways, but he's very patient because he understands that is particularly difficult for my body to respond to. So make sure that you're communicating this to the people you live with. That way they can help you. They can love you. You don't have to feel guilty, for what you're going through. They know, and they're like, we love you. And we know what you're going through, right? It's just a different vibe than trying to hide it. Like I feel bad for my mom because I think she tried to hide it because she was afraid that it meant that she couldn't be taken seriously in the world. In reality, what she needed was more support at home. And if she had communicated that to me, even as a teenager or younger, or even to my dad, they got divorced when I was 11, or my stepdad when they got remarried, I just think that it would have made her life easier looking back. And so I just encourage you to talk to the people who love you and remember that this isn't just something that you can control. This is your body's biological hormonal reaction to the hormonal changes or whatever else you're going through, that it's a chemical imbalance in your body, whatever it is, even if it's not something that's diagnosable, even if you're just like, the world is so heavy right now, I can't function normally. Can you be there for me? Hopefully the people that you live with are people who love you and they care about your experience. And they might be going through something too that they can share with you. And these kind of conversations are what bring us closer and help us live together with more unity and love inside the house. So we're framing it as teamwork for a healthy home. And if you struggle with feeling like the mental load of managing the house and life and decluttering falls on your shoulders, please go listen to the episode I did with Dr. Morgan Cutlip called Addressing the Mental Load of Clutter. I think you're going to feel very validated and it'll give you lots of good ideas. She is a psychologist and relationship expert. So her work is spectacular. So again, that will be in the show notes. There's a couple of those different resources in the show notes today. So I just hope you know that the key when it comes to decluttering and managing your home, keeping it tidy while going through something difficult is compassion compassion for yourself, compassion for the people around you, to take responsibility for how this disorder, this struggle is making you show up, right? There's that responsibility piece. There's compassion all around for everybody. And planning. There's a lot of planning. Plan ahead. Look at your calendar. Set up your home kit or whatever we should call it. Plan it by having these conversations with the people in your home when you're not in a bad week. There's a lot of planning. But what we don't need to worry about is perfection. You won't be perfect. You are going to experience those symptoms. And that doesn't mean we should just give up. That doesn't mean that life is terrible. It just means that life is an ongoing process that we are going to have to continuously do our best to handle the cards we've been dealt. And that means making changes. That means trying new things. That means altering our diet, altering our sleep schedule, altering our systems at home. There are things we can do to make it better, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go away altogether. So I just encourage you to be compassionate with yourself as well as with the people in your life. So real quick reminder, plan around your cycle, set realistic non-negotiables to get done no matter what. Number 3, use distraction as much as possible. Think about NSYNC, think about Modern Love, podcast, whatever. Number 4, prepare the PMDD toolkit or just prepare your house in a way that makes your life easier. And number 5, ask for help and communicate. All right. I am so grateful that I'm able to share my own experience with all of you guys here on the podcast. I hope that you found something usable and helpful for your own life and keeping your home decluttered and manageable. Next week, I'm so excited for you to come back and listen to a podcast all about seizing adventure, living intentionally by decluttering, letting go of the things that don't matter so that you can have more adventure in your life. It's so fun. That's with Shannon and Jerry Arner, the couple behind Arner Adventures. So come back for that one. It's a really fun one. It's going to be really uplifting and motivating. So I'll see you next week. Bye. You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face. So thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at paring_down, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.